Well, alrighty then. Good evening, folks. I see Jeff and Paul and Awkward Teeth and Hair Productions. Good evening, guys. Thanks for coming along. I'm fighting some technical issues this evening, as usual. Let me make that crackling noise go away. We'll get back to that. So anyway, good evening, folks. We're going to run through this real quick. First up, as always, what's in the jam? So let's take a look. I got some new setups for y'all tonight. So hopefully you'll be a little clearer what's going on the computer and on the keyboard. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look. It's this button here. It takes just a couple minutes or seconds for it to set up, and here we go. So let's see. Starting up first, we had a pigments and effects and rack full of stuff. And so this one's a little different. I got two chains going here. So there's a chain that's got pigments going into this effects rack, and we'll go through the effects rack. But Pigments is playing one of my patches called, modified version of one of my patches called PD Droner. And let's see, let's go ahead and turn off the effects so you just hear it dry. So that is the effect, or the patch itself. Let's go ahead and make the pigments a little bit bigger on the screen here for you. So there's a lot going on. I turned off a bunch of the effects for the live tonight so I could use the effects rack. And so anyway, it's not a super complex patch. It's mostly, there's a 3 oscillators of analog going on, and there's a wave table going on. Wave table gives it all that fun texture, and then in the utility engine I've just got more noise and a sub. Which has chosen to stop playing. What's going on? Very interesting. Okay, that was odd. Anyway, so that's the dry, and then we added in the effects chain. And the effects chain, let's see, it's got some stuff that we're going to end up talking about tonight. But it's a bunch of stuff from Arturia. First is this interesting EQ. Just to give a little punch here and there. Going into the new Pitch Shifter 910 from Arturia. There, we can make that bigger. And let's see. So I'm not using a whole lot of the advanced stuff, just the voicing mode. And I'm adding a fifth, so 77 tones up. A little bit of input drive, and I'm, as you can see, I've got an LFO modulating the formant control here. And another LFO is modifying the mix level there on that one. And just a little bit of pitch delay going on. Not a whole lot, just a little. So these two LFOs, both of these LFOs down here are what are driving the dry wet control and the formant shift. And then another new one from Arturia. I did obviously go ahead and get the the version 6 upgrade to the effects. Yeah, it's, you know, it was, well, we'll talk about that in a sec. Once we get through the whole shooting works here. This was pretty neat. I was, it's hard to describe exactly what's going on in here. But one thing I find interesting with Arturia lately, whoops, that didn't scale well. There we go. They're building more and more that works in a vein similarly to Pigments. New instruments, and so the nice thing about that is that there's a consistency to the way things work. So we got Pigments, and then we got scaled down Pigments bits being used, or at least the operation like Pigments. So, you know, just like with Pigments, we got function generators, and these are nice because you can draw your own functions, sort of. You know, this is not a stock LFO. You know, by default, the functions are stock LFOs, stock sine wave, but you can modify them, obviously, to do whatever kind of shaping you want, which is pretty nice. And so I don't think any of the, you know, none of the functions that I have are, in this particular effect are stock. And basically, in this case, I took one of the factory presets and modified it to taste. So I've got, you know, all kinds of things being modulated with the various LFOs. And then that's followed up in the chain by an EQ, just to roll off the low end and trap some of the rumble. So that's the first pad track. The second pad track is this guy, which is coming out of Vital. So this is one of my Vital patches, also modified. Oops, it's a little big. And it's just running through an EQ. There's lots of LFO action here. Hey, Kurt. Good evening. Let's see. Paul says, AB, the pitch shifter with the Eventide. You know, they're a different, they're going to sound different. I mean, you know, it'll be interesting to know what they sound like, but it's going to be a different sound, that's for sure. And I haven't really played a whole lot with a lot of the crazy stuff on it. Let me make this just a touch smaller so that I can see this. And here, this is just running through an EQ again to drop the low end out because it was getting awful muddy down there. And then I'm running it through the distorted, the op-amp 21 distortion. And this particular patch does not have a lot of high end to it. So anyway, that's that one. Next up, I have to turn this back on. Excuse me. Let's see, turn the track back on here because there's some residual noise. This is a new for me from out of Session Percussionist. Basically took a stock one, slowed it down and changed it around a little bit. So we get And that's just being controlled by sequence to do that for the backing track. Just going back and forth between two keys in the sequence. And then that's running into the new mixed drums thing from in the FX Collection. So it's interesting. Like there were like 5 new effects in the FX Collection, 2 or 3 of which I already had. So you know it did make sense. It was kind of a no-brainer to go ahead and buy it. One thing about this particular effect, at least this one, is if there's nothing going on, they're still getting noise off the tape and the distortion in the mid-high section of the plugin. And I honestly have not fully figured this thing out. So I'm going to have to spend some time with it. It sounds great. I like it. It does add some punch, some nice punch to drums, and you've got some great control. It does things that I wouldn't ordinarily do to percussion or do to drums. Hey, Sean. And so it's kind of out of my wheelhouse. But you know, I'll play with it. It's fun. Knowing me, I'll use it for things it's not intended for. I think it'd be pretty good on bass as well. And I was experimenting with that some, and I didn't get as far as I would like to have gotten in time for tonight. So anyway, let me mute that again so the cracklies bits don't bother us. And moving on, first lead sound tonight is coming out of Pure Lo-Fi. It's a modified preset, and that's running through the new FX Ambient. So the actual dry patch so kind of a nice piano organ kind of crossover thing there. And then we ran that through the new FX Ambient, another modified stock patch. Hey, Mixmaster. Good to see you. So let's see, that's that track. Another lead bit. Let's see, this one is also in Pigments. Does this thing. And actually, let's give that dry, because I can't remember exactly how I did this. So let's listen to the dry patch. Is this thing? Oh, I remember how I did this now. So nice kind of synth horn lead patch. And then I ran that through a couple of things. the FX Motions gizmo. Wait, that's what's doing the chop. And that's kind of modifying the Euclidean sequencer gizmo thing. And then that runs into refract. So that's kind of fun. And then one more in the box track. It's another Pigments. I picked on a lot of Arturia tonight. Let's do this dry first. One of my patches, Modified. And that is running through the Delay Brigade. So that's that track, and then finally, and I won't see it on screen because I don't have a good setup for this yet. Actually, let me do this. No, I can't really do that. Anyway, up next on there, this will just show you external instrument. That's coming off the modular. And I'm doing some, let's do this. Hold on one sec. What's going to be the best way to do this without getting you all seasick? Let's see. Now, I'll go ahead and I'll bring up camera 2. And I'll just take you for a ride. What the heck? Oh, we're over to the Euro rack. And move my glass of water out of the way. So it's the 2600 being used only for two things. So everything is going on down here in the rack. I am using one of the oscillators from the 2600 as a LFO at the moment for one of the inputs on one of the modulation inputs on the WASP. And then I'm just using it also for the output stage. So let's go ahead and I'll drive down closer. Let's see how this is going to look. There we go. So basically, this is the same patch as we had the other night with this, except for adding the modulation control of the WASP. So I can do ugly things like. And I'm going to be changing the frequency of the oscillator on the 2600. And one of the really cool things about the 2600 is these oscillators can either be LFOs or I can take them to audio. I've also got, which you can't see from here, but I got mod wheel also controlling the cutoff frequency of the wasp. So anyway, that is what's in the jam tonight. So let's see what we got going on here in the chat. Let me catch up real quick. Mixmaster is pulling a trigger on the AmpTone Lab Sway. Interesting. Yeah, the Arturia FX package is really good. It's not cheap, you know, like many things anymore. But you know, depending on how many other effects plugins from them you have, they do give a discount. You know, in my case, I owned the previous version. And to that, I had added the J37 and a couple of other things. So my upgrade price was less than the intro price for the FX Ambient thing. So it was kind of a no-brainer as far as I was concerned to go ahead and pick up the whole, upgrade the whole shoot and works. So, you know, it depends though. I mean, take a look at it. Don't just, you know, I would say don't just, you know, grab the whole thing just because the whole thing is the whole thing. But it does give a great, I mean, there's a whole slew of different things in here. I mean, there are, let's see here. There are, let me push the button again. Yeah, there are in it, there are, it'll take a second to get there. I guess it's got to reset everything up. But we got, you know, and I show 2 of most everything because I have both VST3 versions and audio units versions loaded. But there's, you know, the bus exciter is cool. I don't know a whole lot about force or peak. I haven't played with them. Transient management's good. The choruses are great. Oh, that sounds cool. Kind of like that. Sounds kind of like that thing from Rolly that watches your hands, and as you move your hand, your gestures will. Your gestures can direct the sound, the music, and effects or whatever you have mapped to it. It's pretty cool. So yeah, there's some great choruses, compressors, lots of great compressors, nice delays. My favorite one of the delays in the FX collection is the Tape 201. The distortions are great, and then this EFX, this EFX stuff is really a lot of fun. I think that's where they're really coming into their own. Typical with Arturia, you know, they of course are emulating a lot of classic stuff, but then they've also started to really put some effort into their own. Into their own unique plugins, which I think is a lot of fun. I'll take a look at that. I played with the Rolly one at a trade show a few months before it came out. And a lot of people said it's really hard to get used to, but my experience with it was the same as I had with the Osmos, which people also said was hard to get used to. And I kind of grasped the concept pretty quick. Yeah, upgrade price was not bad. you know, and in my case, you know, because I had already added a couple of things to my Collection 5, I was like $49. Do I prefer the RE208? I don't have the UAD, so I don't have any basis of comparison. For the most part, for my stuff, everything that Arturia does is certainly good enough. You know, I don't need to have all the nuance of this versus this. It's like I pick one, I got it, it sounds great, I move on. I'm not going to buy two others of the same thing, unless there's a really compelling reason. But I really, you know, I don't need two 201s, you know. I got one, it's good, works great. And for effects, by the way, I forgot to mention the modular is, as usual, running through the TC Electronic Plethora X3, just for reverb and delay, or delay and reverb, depending on how you want to look at it. So, you know, Paul, I didn't bother to compare. Oh, you prefer Arturia to the UAD. Really? I know you're pretty happy with the UAD stuff. I know you've been talking a lot about you had gotten the suite and we're loving it. So anyway, cool. Let's see. Kind of got ahead of myself a little bit, but so we're going to backtrack a couple things. First up, and I'll try to remember to say this again, so I pound this into your heads. Sunday coming up will be a Gallimaufry Collective Jam, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. We will go for about an hour. I don't know who all is going to be in this week. People are coming and going and doing whatnot, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'll be up at 1 o'clock here. As soon as well, others will be listed. I think Jeff is going to try and make it. And don't know who all else is going to make it. We shall see what we get. But 1 o'clock here on the channel on Sunday for about an hour live jam. And let's see, so moving to the next, thing on the list. I got to move that headphone clamp. One thing we discovered, or I discovered with the Ultra Audio plugin that I've been using a lot lately, which I really like. I mean, I really like it. It's got some unique features. They've got plans for some even more unique features. I do know that. But one gotcha with it, so kind of an ultra gotcha, is that the mechanism for saving, sharing, exporting patches is in my opinion, not great. So there's no way to export a single preset. Like if you wanted to work collaboratively on something, so there's no way to export a single preset and hand it off to somebody else. The only way that they have of sharing presets is through their online store, which has a whole lot of hoops and requirements as far as getting things uploaded and made available there. You have to do a pack. You can't just do single presets, although you can, once they're uploaded as a pack, someone can buy a single preset from the pack, but you have to put up a pack. And a pack has to be at least 12 presets, and there's got to be cover art that goes with it, and every original preset also has to have demo audio. So it's, you know, there's a whole lot of work involved in setting that up. Plus they want, you know, all the personal information that's required for sales. So, and I just want to hand off, I want to hand off a patch to a couple of guys for them to play with, you know. So the local storage is in an SQLite database, and there's no, you know, quick export from that, which is a little annoying. Now, again, being an SQLite database, somebody smarter than me could probably come up with a librarian app to be able to go in and you know, figure out the database structure and grab the individual presets. So anyway, I did put in a request on the forum, on their support forum, as a feature request to add that. I haven't heard anything back as to whether they might consider it or why they didn't do it or what else. There's a lot of feature requests, and they do seem very receptive to at least looking at what people are asking for. So hopefully I'll get my I will get my update. We shall see. So let's see. Moving on, as some of you know, I'm farting around with the XY-pad thing, and you noticed I didn't use it at all tonight because of things. Some things I've discovered in, I'm not sure what's causing it yet, but some things I've discovered. But I have come up with a couple of inelegant solutions for getting things to work reasonably well and get things to follow. It's not the way I'd like it to be, but what I've done is I've got 2 tracks set up here in Ableton. The XY-pad in MIDI track and the Kontrol S in MIDI track. I'm bringing those 2 out. So the XY-pad comes in from network MIDI, because it's plugged in USB currently on the Mac, and then that goes to a virtual merge situation on my MIDI interface. Kontrol S also comes in USB from its source and also goes to the merge, the virtual MIDI input or merger I've built in the interface. And then what I do is I pick up the output from that virtual merge to go to the tracks that I want to control. And so, let's see, let's get one of them as the live track here. We'll pick this one. Yeah, this one demonstrates the problem that I'm having as well. So, you know, when I play, if you look down here, you look up here, you see the little orange dot, the little tiny orange dot there, tells me I'm getting MIDI in. This tells me the MIDI is going out, and this, you know, shows the note data and velocity data and all that kind of stuff. So that's going out to the XL, to the MIDI XL, and then coming into this track from the merge, when I play, you get the indication of the note, or the MIDI input coming there, and then you get the indication of it hitting the pure low file, the MIDI input on pure lo-fi. I get my tongue untied here. And so that's cool, doing the thing. If I move the XY-pad, which you can't see at the moment, but you see, we'll track this down here, XY-pad in, I get a little yellow dot that tells me CC, continuous controller information is coming in, goes out to the merge, you know, the virtual merger. You see here that I'm getting a little yellow dot. It tells me CC data is coming into the channel. You see the little yellow dot, it hits the Pure Lo-Fi plugin. What I wanted to control, though, is I wanted to control, because these new plugins have XY pads, I wanted to be able to control the XY pad. So I've got this mapped, at least in one instance of this, I've got this mapped, but if you look here, that right down here is where that little yellow, where that dot would be. The MIDI information is not getting past the first plugin. And I don't know if that's an Ableton thing, if it's something caused by the plugin, or what. And this, Jeff will be quick to point out, is something that works easily in Bitwig. Because in Bitwig, there is a device that I can drop in right here. It's a modulation device. They actually have an XY modulation device that I can insert here and tell it to grab that MIDI directly. I don't know if there's a device yet. I haven't found a device for that in Ableton Live. But that's, you know, a slight frustration I'm having at the moment. Yep, the modulators look great. I'm still probably not going to change. You know, I know that in the background in Ableton Live, all the MIDI stuff, all the MIDI information that's going on is available to Max for Live. And there's a whole bunch of kind of hidden MIDI buses. So it may already exist, although the searching the library for devices in the Max for Live library is horrible. But I don't see it being that hard to make the device. So I'll probably play with that and see what I get. But some other things that I talked about with this, where I think I talked last time. Yeah, here's looking in the right place. Last time I was talking, I was wondering what lives under here. You know, I got the phone sitting here tonight, as usual. What lives in this space in a Kontrol S keyboard? And of course, there's no good information on that as to, you know, what's really going on that I could find. But I did finally find one really badly produced video on YouTube where somebody had taken one of these apart to repair a key, and there's like two very brief shots, like a second or 2 seconds of each, that show me there's nothing under here but air. It's just it's a big open cavity there. And so now I'm back to the idea of putting an XY controller actually in this keyboard. And I found there's a thing, guitarists get all the cool toys, but they've got, there's a company called AmpTone, or AmpTone Labs or something like that, link in the show notes. They have this gizmo, which is designed to put an XY pad in the body of an electric guitar with MIDI control coming out. And so, since it fits in a standard Telecaster or Strat body, it's obviously very thin. Doesn't take up much more than about I think it's 1.25 inches tops as far as depth is concerned. So I'm thinking that might be my eventual XY pad. They make it with both. I could certainly put a Raspberry Pi down in there, that's for sure. I could put the XY pad on this side, and underneath, I could mount the Mac Mini up underneath the where I've got the launch pad. Actually, I don't know if it's deep enough to put the Mac Mini in there. It would be pretty tight. In fact, no, I don't think a Mac Mini height-wise, a new one anyway, would quite fit in there. I think it'd be a little bit too tight. But this thing looks pretty cool. Looks pretty easy to mount. And so it would give me, there's plenty of space to do it. I'd need to add the MIDI output port off the back end to run that over to the MIDI interface. What that would eliminate is the whole bunch of shenanigans that I have to do in the audio MIDI tool thing. That doesn't need to be there. Where I've got, all these things like bringing in the iPhone and routing it to this network connection, and all that kind of stuff. All that would get to go away, which is right nice. Anyway, so that's a thought. It doesn't cost any more than buying either a used Chaos pad or getting the NTS-3 Chaos pad kit thing and stacking that on there. And it would look a lot nicer. And the only thing I don't like about it is they're using a translucent panel under the XY, which is ridiculous. And they've got an LED that mounts down underneath and makes a hotspot in the middle of the silly pad. And I got better depth here than we have in a guitar, so I could make a better diffuser. But I would probably just put a solid piece of material behind that instead of the goofy LED, or block the goofy LED, and like put my logo there, something like that. So anyway, thinking about that. And the only other thing is, there's a couple other show notes here, but I want to probably going to skip them and bring them up next week. Let's see. Yeah, because I want to do the one topic. The other three topics. The other three topics each need some time. As far as surface mounting it, yeah, I probably could. I'd have to make a slot in any case. Let me pull the graphic back up. We'll bring it up full screen this time. So, and take the chat out of the way. Of course, I can't slide the mouse around. If you look at that collection of parts, there's the black rectangle. That's the bezel. And then just to the right of that is the actual XY pad, the resistive pad. And there's a very thin, very delicate ribbon cable that comes down from that. So they kind of, if you look at the installation videos, which I've done, that there needs to be a slot for that cable to go through. And then so the thickness of the bezel and the bezel and the XY pad itself are about 1.5 millimeters. or a millimeter, somewhere in there. So yeah, I mean, it could be surface mounted just fine. That wouldn't be the thing, but I still have to make a hole in the case, and to get down to where the electronics would live. There's also some other bits to it. There's a this is designed to work with a couple of specific effects pedals, but it puts out standard CC values out the MIDI port. So there's a button there, a push button for locking the XY position, which is nice. There is there's a, I guess there's an on-off switch, and there is a rotary control that is used for selecting the presets on the devices it's designed for, which could also be handy because it's sending, program change, and then it's sending the CC values for X and Y and something else. Concept of being able to change presets from that is nice, although I don't really need that. But anyway, it's about $160, I think. 160, 170 bucks. So I'll probably order one pretty soon. They make two sizes, and I'm kind of waiting to see if the larger one is going to be back in stock anytime soon. Hey, Danny. If it's not one thing, it's another. In our case, we have two sump pumps here. We have two sump pumps here. One's electric, and one is hydraulic. And the hydraulic is supposed to be the backup. Well, the electric one failed the other day, so now I'm just running with the hydraulic one, which here is expensive. Water in Carroll County is not cheap. So that was the one option, Mixmaster, because that'll fit perfectly in this space on top. So that's an option too. The only challenge, and I'll put that in air quotes, the only challenge for that, actually no, that's not true. I was going to say it's a USB device, but it also has, there's two internal jumpers that you can change the sync inputs and outputs to MIDI inputs and outputs. Oh geez. Yeah, the weather is not helping with that kind of thing. Excuse me. Between rain and we had a lot of rain and before the snow. It rained yesterday, the better part of the day, so our sump pump was running constantly. The only place that I have problems with that is there's a drain for the entrance, the back basement entrance stairs, and it backs up all the time no matter what I do, and it leaks in under the door. So, obviously this is not music related, but on the topic of sump pumps, the electric one that failed is, yeah, it's just a replacement thing. The electric one that failed is 3, maybe 4 years old, if that. And it replaced the one that had been merrily pumping along since sometime before we bought the house 15 years ago. And I remember when I was young, you put a sump pump in, and the thing ran forever. Oh, that's ugly. That is ugly. Because if it's a well, if it's below grade, it's, you know, it's seeping in through whatever the foundation material is. If it gets saturated, it's going to come in. You know, if it's an exposed wall, it'll be a little easier to find a leak point. But if it's below grade, that's ugly, real ugly, real fast. I chalk that up to what I call the joys of home ownership. And I think the whole home ownership thing is a crock at this point. They sold us a bill of goods, but that is what it is. I have a house now. Well, and the thing is, you know, I don't usually have a lot of water, except when I have a lot of water, you know. So the standard ones are, you know, should be fine. I don't know why, you know, I don't know why this one failed as quickly as it did, except that they just don't make stuff to last like they used to. And that, you know, that annoys the stuff out of me. Yep, if your brother-in-law knows what he's doing, you'll be in good shape. Yeah, let him do the thing. I've got a buddy down the road. He's like, he used to be he was a general contractor, builder, home improvement contractor. You know, he helped put in the hydraulic pump, and that thing just works. You know. So anyway. But yeah, something will have to be done about the electric one, and I will take that note on the sump pump. In fact, I'm going to write that down because our local guys won't. They won't think of that. They'll come up with their standard off-the-shelf, you know, pump. So let's see. Magnetic drive. Oh, a pond pump. Okay, I get it. I will say the concept of the high lift is intriguing because mine, the basement is pretty much is pretty much fully subgrade, and so it is going to have a bit of a lift, and yeah, I mean obviously need a float switch. And I know the float switch on the existing one is a piece of garbage, so, you know, that was part of its problem. I think when I was away a couple weeks ago, I would suspect that the float switch stuck on and the thing ran itself dry, and then seized up or jammed or whatever. Yeah, obviously, yeah, the further you got to lift, the less you can lift it. That makes perfect sense. So anyway, enough about home ownership. Let's see, what else? Anything else? Not a whole lot else. Let's see, I guess we can start getting into some of this other stuff here. Why not? But I'm not really fully prepared. Yeah, I wanted to write up a thing. So there's some terminology that gets misused regularly, and it irks me, you know. magnet spinning an impeller like an old Chrysler. Old Chrysler Hydra drive transmission. So, you know, I hear a lot of people talking about phasing, and you know, the problems that it can cause, and all that kind of stuff. And you know, they go on, you don't want phasing. You can't have phasing. Phasing will cause loss of volume in sound and that kind of thing. Yeah. And so that could be fun. So you hear a lot of people talk, like I said, they talk about phasing and how detrimental it is. And the thing with phase, what those people are actually talking about is something called phase cancellation. And phase cancellation is or can indeed be bad, depending on the situation. But one thing that's important, one thing that is important to understand about phase relationships in sound is that those phase relationships do a lot of things. One, they're an effect. I mean, you know, when you put a phaser on a guitar or keyboard or whatever, you're phasing. You're altering the phase relationship between left-right channels, or you're splitting the audio into separate audio lines and altering the phase relationship between them, altering the phase relationship between different frequencies in the sound, and that creates that phasing effect. The other thing that's important about phasing is phase and time differences are how we as humans, and any animal too, really, it's how we determine where things are in space. And it's how we determine distance. And is something over here? Is it up here? Is it down there? Those phase relations, that phasing helps you place things in space, as well as affecting timbre. So phasing is important. We need phasing. We don't need phase cancellation. And I was going to do a whole demo. I was about halfway through write up and set up with graphics and the whole 9 yards to do a demonstration of phasing versus phase cancellation, and I didn't get it finished. So if people are interested, or if I'm still interested, I'll do something more on that later, as opposed to the 5 minutes of me ranting about it now. And let's see, the only other thing that, and this is definitely an interesting, this is an interesting topic. I saw this kind of pass through on something video I was watching the other day. It was kind of thrown out in passing, but it's actually really important. It's a really important consideration, and this was in reference to synthesizers, but it's true of anything, and it's the most important thing to know about a new synthesizer. And the most important thing to know about a new synthesizer, or a new camera, or a new computer, or a new car, or new whatever, is not what it will do for you, but what it won't do. And if you go in knowing what it won't do, you're less likely to be disappointed later. So that's just a thought. It's a very important thought, and it's actually kind of, it's a kind of came up as part of the, at the same time as figuring out that Ultra won't save preset locally. and learning that Absynth can't import custom wavetables, and you can't save effects presets. So there's this stuff like that. Parameter mapping doesn't work in the normal manner. Yeah, it's counterintuitive, because we always go in, we look at what's this thing going to do for me? What is this going to add to my bag of tricks and whatever it is, and so we get excited about all the things that, whoops. Okay, so we still have that problem. This will be gone in 7 seconds. Okay, this might be straightened out now. One of the things that my video switcher won't do for me, is allow me to stack up a lot of layers of graphics. So the full screen graphic uses the same layer, or the same, what's called a still store, uses the same still store as the little lower third thing that shows the like, subscribe, which, I always encourage people to like and subscribe if you like what's going on here. So, and I wanted to say that tonight too, because I've noticed on some people's videos when they say subscribe, the little subscribe button actually lights up in YouTube. So I'm going to go back and look and see if that actually works on mine too, or try and figure out how they're doing that. Let me real quick make sure we're not going to have that problem again. Let's see. Go into there. And I'll show you what I'm doing. What the heck? Because I can. So basically, I have these two. I have the still stores. So the graphic that opened the show, and I've got some other lower thirds. This is the like and subscribe one. And I had this loaded. Apparently, I had this loaded into both still stores. When I do, in fact, we can show it. If I go into graphics and I launch the full screen, so we're going to disappear for a second. I'll come back to you. So if I do this, it sticks. You see real quick, well, I saw it. Let me get back to you. So you can see that it has stuck this graphic in Still Store 1. And when I use it for another thing, it sticks it in Still Store 6, or Still Stores 2. So what I need to do is change those scripts around a little bit so they do it correctly. I've been going through and making a lot of changes to scripts this week because there were a lot of things that weren't working the way I liked. But what this does, the video switcher that I have has 6 layers, and it has one mix bus, or what's in video switchers is called a mix effects bus. It's just like a mixing bus in an audio mixer, except it's for video. And this switcher only has one, so I have to do all kinds of dances to do things that would ordinarily be done on much more expensive, much larger switchers to make them fit in here. So, bit of a challenge. I knew going in that this was a thing that I was going to have to look out for, because, I'm spending $1,000 on a switcher, on a video switcher, instead of $10,000. And it's literally that kind of difference in pricing to get that second mix effects bus. So, I have to be careful. I made some mistakes. I'm going back and correcting them, and that's what let me, do the new. Going back and looking at some corrections and the way I'm doing things was what let me do the new arrangement for showing the computer and the keyboard at the same time. I wasn't doing that very well before. You know, the old, I still have the old setup loaded. The old setup looks like this, you know, and you can't, and I'm not showing the keyboard as well. It was before I was showing the keyboard in the little box where I am, and you couldn't see what was going on. So the other thing that I did was I went to, wherever I can, I'm going to dissolves between things instead of hard cuts. You know, just a little bit of work like that. More of that is coming as I get time. And other little niceties like the chat fades out at the top of the box now. Oh, you missed some video stuff, Jeff, and the point which was led into by the point of the most important thing to know about a new synth or other whatever kind of gear is not what it will do for you, but what it doesn't do. So, no sorry. Jeff, I know you're going to be coming up. Let's not forget to say Jeff will be live tonight at 9:30 on his channel, 9:30 Eastern. And so to that end, it's almost 20 after 9 now. In preparation for Jeff's stream, I'm going to go ahead, say goodnight. We will catch you all on Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time for the Gallimaufry Live Jam, and then I will be back again on Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. So, see you all then. Have a great time. Have a good rest of your week, and catch you all soon. Thanks, guys.